pretty busy this week, so I didn't have time to promote the live show. Hey guys, I'm just going to give it a few minutes, let some more people get in here. How's everybody's Sunday going so far? Starting to get a few people in here. Is everybody having a good Sunday? Type in the chat here. Oh, nice. It's nice and cool here. The sun comes out every now and then, but so far it's staying cool. Where are you located at? I think I've asked before, but hopefully everybody can hear me. I just kind of jumped on here. Michigan. Okay, yeah, I think I did ask that before. I'm sure it's definitely cool up there. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I just wanted to give a few minutes to let everyone in. I was running a little bit behind. Great. I'm glad everybody's having a nice Sunday. What I eventually want to do with these live streams is sort of put some stuff on the screen so you guys can see it. But apparently I have to have some software downloaded to do that, but didn't have time this week. So maybe by next week I can show you all the 944 footage or 944 Fest footage, and then we can sort of just talk about it as I stream it. But as for now, I'm just going to be doing a webcam series right now on the live stream, showing you some 944s, and maybe we can even talk about some of the stuff we're working on and show you how to fix some stuff and answer some questions. But eventually, yeah, I want to upload videos and let you guys watch them, and we can just kind of do it all together while we're hanging out. It'll save a lot of time on editing. It's a shame I can't do it now, but apparently there's some software I've got to get. Is anyone working on anything interesting this week? Of the future project car. So I went to look at it yesterday. And for those that don't know, I posted it over on Facebook. It's a 85 and a half black 944, and it looks to be in pretty good shape. I was kind of hoping I could drive it home because the guy that owns it now said that it doesn't run. So I took a spare computer, some DME relays, and an extra sensor just in case, it might be something simple as swapping out a sensor. But when I got there was a fuel leak somewhere. So you could see where dried fuel was all over the engine. And I decided that I was not going to do anything with it, but have it towed back to the shop. So at the moment, it is still sitting at his house, and I've scheduled someone to come pick it up and bring it down here. But it has a Momo steering wheel, and that's about the only mods that I'm going to do to it. I plan to build an engine on the side and then drop it in eventually. And that's going to be the car that I want to take the 944 Fest and just kind of show off some of the stuff we do here at the shop. Don't know if I trailer it so that way I can drive it on the track. I know some people drive their cars there and then they track them. And I've seen a lot of people do it, even in cars that we've built. I'm not against that. It's just that I'd like to have a ride home should something go sideways. But I'm going to wrap it and make it look pretty cool. I wanted an NA 944 for this project. I didn't want to do a turbo, and I didn't want to do a 924S. I wanted to do specifically a 944. And so I'm going to wrap it in graphics and make it look really cool and track it around at 944 Fest, and then just have it sit out front and let people look at it. But the interior is pretty clean, needs some work, but the body's pretty straight. I've got another 85 and a half that might also be one of these projects. I haven't decided what to do with it yet, but it's been sitting for years. If you're a Patreon guy, then you've seen this car, and I need to get back to working on that as well. But that's as far as that project goes. Once I get it here, I don't even know when they're going to bring it, but maybe sometime this week I can put a video up on it, just kind of showing people how the project's going to start, what the ideas are with it. If anybody out there likes playing around with the 3D models of these cars, I'd like to see what we could do as far as what it's going to look like once it's wrapped, and then maybe even send it to whoever's going to print the wrap. And then we can turn it into a real live car. But as far as having pictures of it, I can't put them on the screen without having that. I'd like to know how I could do it. I'd like to share some pictures with you guys, but the best I could probably do right now is just hold the phone up, and that wouldn't be very, very entertaining. But yeah, I want to do something. I've seen a lot of cars at 944 Fest that look really nice, and I thought I'd try and get in on that. I do like that it's a black car. I've always liked the black 944s. So hopefully it'll work out nice. I'm going to keep most of it, the original paint, where I can. But I like to wrap it. I haven't decided on any colors yet, but I just want it to sort of represent what we do here. So hey guys, we're just getting started here. Got some more people joining us. If you got any questions and you want to see any of the cars or want me to work on something, maybe I can help you out with something, just let me know. We've just been talking about the weather and a project car that I recently purchased. Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to turn out really nice. It looks to be in pretty good shape. I should be able to get it running fairly easily. I didn't bring anything so I could look down in the cylinders, but the oil was clean. There was no coolant, but you know, hopefully the coolant's just on the ground somewhere and not in the bottom of the oil pan. But we'll see. I want to make it something pretty interesting. I really like what Elliot does with his cars, and for a few years now I've said I need to do something like that, and I just haven't had the time or the chance to do it. So we still have some of the same cars in here from last week, but we got a lot more outside that are going to be coming in. Some of them are a lot closer to being finished than they were before. So we had a hi Scott. We've got a turbo 944 with a leaking rear main seal. We've got the rear main seal out now, but I'm just trying to make sure that it looks like someone replaced it fairly recently. So I'm cleaning up the crankshaft and everything to make sure that whatever happens doesn't happen again, or maybe they just set it in there wrong. But I don't want to get it all back together and find out that the seal's going to leak all over the place again. So I'm just taking my time with it, but it is all apart, seals out, ready to go back in. Just want to make sure everything is perfect before it goes back together. And then we've got, of course, that turbocharged 924S we're working on over there. The engine's going back together, and we're putting a new dash in it. And we got some really interesting gauges that are going to be going in it. I can't wait to show you guys that. Like I said, in future live streams, what I'll probably do is have my face over in the corner somewhere, and then I'll be showing you guys video clips, so that way it not only saves on me having to edit this stuff, but might make for more interesting videos than what we had in the past. Someone said my first 944 was also 85 and a half. Now it's 2 black on black. Video timing belt balancer has helped me get along. Well, thank you very much for letting me know. And I'm glad you've got it running. I like the S2s a lot. We've got a S2 out here. I might walk you guys out here in a minute and let you look at this S2 we're holding for Elliot at the moment. So if you don't know, Elliot owns a 944 barn. And he just bought a car locally here in the area. And he asked if he could store it here. And so it's a really nice car. I didn't really want an S2 to play around with for the project that I'm working on, but I got to looking at that one and I was like, yeah, maybe I should offer him something for it, but I don't know what he's planning on doing with it. So I ended up just finding something else. But I think you guys might really like to see it. And then we got a Garnet Turbo here. And we are doing just a lot of stuff to that car. It's getting pretty much everything. but did run and drive, but it's just getting a lot of odds and ends. And then we have this Garnet car right here. It's getting new belts and everything's back together. I'm just waiting for the rotor button. I order a lot of stuff from Worldpac, but the prices for those on there were a little bit ridiculous. So I ended up ordering it from someone else, and it's just taking a little time to come in, but should have it soon, and that'll be wrapped up. I think he wants the air conditioning looked at too, but we'll just see once we finish this up. So someone said, I wanted you to know that what you're doing is amazing. Glad there are people like yourself having this with our cars, enjoying the videos, and now your live stream. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I just kind of started doing this one day and wanted to make a lot of fun for everybody and involve everyone in it. So we're located in Charlotte, North Carolina. So when you Google us, you'll see a bunch of different addresses, but we don't. I'm getting a weird thing on my screen. It needs to go away. You can't see it, but trying to get rid of it. Oh, I don't want this on the screen at all. Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah. So we try and set up a lot of stuff by appointment. Just not that people will, but people that contact me, we can kind of schedule it because sometimes we don't want people coming on the same day. Where are you located at? I got a lot of cars from Atlanta and Tennessee. A lot of them are here in North Carolina. Hampton, South Carolina. Okay. I know where that is. I grew up close to Greenville. So Jack says he's got an 86 944 turbo and it's been sitting for 6 years. Do you have any resources or tips for getting a list of replacement parts from Pelican? I haven't set all that up yet. I'd like to. I was thinking about doing something on my website, perhaps to like tell people like all the parts that we change whenever we're doing a front of engine service or whatever, and showing pictures of that stuff. I'm actually working on something like that right now, so people know what they're getting. But I really haven't had time to put anything like that together. But that's a great idea. Um, but yeah, I'd like to do something like that, and eventually, maybe if people want to sponsor me, then I'll put their website out there. So I don't want to like tell people because people have different how you say, everybody not have the same experience with websites as others. And there's a lot of websites that I do personally like to use, but I don't want to just put their name out there and then someone have a bad thing and I'm not even getting, anything out of it. Someone's like, oh, I ordered from there one time and it's terrible, or I might have had a great experience too. I'm just saying that like, I don't want to say that I specifically get these parts from this website when like, you know, a lot of times I don't. So sometimes I get stuff from 10 different places, but the the site that I mentioned earlier to get parts? Pelican Parts. But I'm of course not affiliated with any of these sites. Nobody sponsors me or anything. I just tell people like where I get a lot of parts. But there's a lot of good guys out there, and so as far as it goes, shop around, look for the best experience and best prices. But that's just one of the. I sometimes have to go, but I did go to World Pack. Maybe that was what she was talking about. But you have to be a business owner to have a World Pack account, so that's something to keep in mind. Unless you know someone that can get the parts for you, and sometimes their parts, their prices are a little bit better, but not always. In the case of this rotor button, it wasn't the best price. They were just out of stock for the what I was looking for. Yeah, it was World Pack. Thing I like about them, and again, I'm not trying to promote one side or the other, but World Pack has a warehouse just up the street from me, so I can get stuff same day, pretty much anything. I don't have to keep a lot of inventory with them, but I run out and then I've got to order from someone else, and you have to wait for it to come in, and sometimes it says it's in stock, but they've actually had to order it. It's just I do. I do offer video service calls sometimes. We just have to pick a time. I charge by the hour for it. It's about $110 an hour. But in most cases, we could probably cover everything in less time than that. But if you jump on the live stream and you ask the question that you're having, then then I probably have a car here with the same problem, and I can just show you how to fix it. So Christian said, speaking of that, your website is nice. Thank you very much. I've been trying to add to it here and there where I can. I look at other websites every now and then, and I realize that I'm a little behind. It looks like something from the mid 2000s. I need to update it again. But I try and go in every few months or so and just update it. And I've actually got some more pictures I need to add to it. He continues, definitely looking forward to this in the future as far as doing the restorations. No problem. Jack says it has a hot start problem before it's sat. So I was thinking of replacing all the spark. They put a thing right there in my way on the screen. I'm was like, okay, the spark side of things, including the reference sensor. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Sometimes a hot start problem can be fuel related. It might be a sign of a failing fuel pressure regulator. I've also seen where they bleed down really quick. So after the car sits for a moment, the what is it? The check valve in the fuel pump isn't holding the correct pressure or adequate pressure anymore, and so a lot of that just bleeds back into the tank, and then it makes it hard to start. So something to consider. You might want to just take a fuel gauge and stick it on there. But if you're not getting spark, then yeah, that opens up a whole another can of worms. Sometimes it could be the DME itself. Maybe something gets hot in there and doesn't want to restart. So Hunter says, anything on top of a timing belt and a rubber clutch do you think is a much ado as a preventive maintenance on an 86? Yes, I mentioned this last time. Oil cooler seals. If they haven't been done or you don't know when they've been done, go ahead and get rid of those things. Put them in there and then you can drive as far as you want. I last did my oil cooler seals 10 years ago now, and you shouldn't have to do them. I probably won't have to do them for another 10 years. But if they're original, they have better material now and they'll last longer. But if they're original and they're 40 years old, then it's a ticking time bomb, and then you can end up just like having a mess in your oil pan or in your coolant system. So it's always good to make sure you change those out. That's a good idea. As far as Kevin said, if I had an old projector laying around, you could potentially share photos. That'd be pretty cheap too. I mean, I'd probably get a cheap projector on Amazon for like a couple of bucks too. So, and that'd be awesome because I was thinking about a whiteboard too, like getting a whiteboard up so I could just sit here and write on stuff. So if someone wanted to ask the question about, hey, how does the reference sensors and computer and all that stuff ties into the fuel pump relay, then I could just sit there and draw a diagram. I could just project on the whiteboard here. But yeah, I definitely want to do something so all you guys can sit and watch the videos with me, and I'm sure that I could figure out a way to get them all in order. Someone writes, hi, first, thank you for your videos. You've helped me a lot on my project. Second, what would you recommend checking before getting a 944 for restoration? Are there things that are a complete no-go? As someone once said, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap Porsche. So you kind of want to start with the best one that you can afford. If the body's messed up and there's a bunch of dings and dents, then it's just going to cost you more when you go to try and get it repainted. The interior, you don't want a lot of cut wiring and stuff. I mean, everything's fixable. We have stuff that we have parts cars and stuff, so we can go out and just replace entire harnesses if necessary. And in the case of this burgundy car here, we're actually replacing the doors because one of the straps that holds the door from flinging completely open's broken off of it. So we replaced the door on that because we'll probably go in and fix it, but it's going to be a terrible repair. You're better off just replacing the door. And then underneath where the trim piece is on the side, on the opposite side of the car, you can see where it's just rusting out. And so we could sit there, fix the rust. We could put stuff on it to prevent that, or you can just go with a whole new door. And so in these cases, it's a lot better to just replace parts. You don't want to kind of, with a radio repair or something, someone's cut wires, that's going to be common. We can fix that and clean it up and make it look nice. But when you get into like the window switches and the wiring and all that stuff's hacked to pits, you probably just want to go ahead and do a whole new harness. So there's not really anything that's a no-go, but you should know that it just gets expensive. So if you get a car, it's clean, it has nice paint, and maybe you just have to buff it, or just needs a door card or something put in it. Of course, it's going to be cheaper than trying to start with a car that's going to need a ton of work on it. I don't know really how helpful that is because, but I've seen some 944s out there that I wouldn't restore, but so funny, I've actually parted worse cars than cars that we've restored here. So we make anything possible. So it's just the time, and if you got the money and the patience to do it. Jack says, would you also replace a timing belt that was practically new before it sat 6 years? I understand they will age slowly and the rubber would degrade, but I'm not sure how fast the process is. Yes, I would. The problem with that is that they're just not meant to sit. They're going to be sitting in that position for a long time too, so they're kind of stretched. And then you've ever noticed that if you take a belt off, they'll keep that shape. And so there's a lot more to it than that, but belts are a lot better than they were in the 80s and then even in the 90s. But um, if it was a 6-year-old belt on the car that was running, I would say, of course, get it changed as soon as possible. But I would have more faith in that than one that's just been sitting there, because you just never know if any oil or anything saturated into it. It's it's better to just go ahead and change it. And you just never know, because I can say, well, it's probably fine, and it may be, but without being there and actually laying eyes on it, you're just never gonna know. I would take that off, and it's just good measure to do it. Belts are cheap. So Zane says, can we get parts from you for some of these parts cars? I'm working on that. I've slowly realized that I'm in the wrong business, but so I do plan to get something going where maybe I can work together with companies to put together packages that I assemble, but don't necessarily have the warehouse to hold them or something. So I would just tell them like, hey, this is the package that I sell at my shop. And so these are the parts that I want to put in this box. And then say like Amazon, they have the warehouse and they can just fulfill these orders that have my name on it. And, it would be quality products from me, but I wouldn't actually have to fulfill the orders and keep a whole warehouse full of parts. But it's definitely something I've thought about. And I've got a whole list of other things I've thought of, but I've not quite got around to yet. So he says, also on carpet replacement, I have a beige carpet and it's a lot harder to find quality than black. Has made the dash replacement hard to find as well in brown. Yeah. So the beige carpet, I haven't really looked much. I've got a few guys here that are getting carpet replacements now, but they all have black interiors. So I've not really looked to see if there are any other colors available. But I have looked at the dashes and I have noticed that they do not make a brown dash. So if you're wanting to keep that interior, there are ways to do it, but it's being crafty. You might have to send your old dash to someone and have them redo it. I have pulled factory stuff off before and scratched it, and you'll see the black underneath it. So I'm not sure that they weren't using some sort of plastic paint on some of this, or someone did in the past. I don't know if it was factory or not. It looked to be factory, so I don't know that they didn't just do that from the factory. But I had a dash cover in my old 84 944, the white one that I had, and you could only get them in black. You used to be able to get them in brown, but I could only get it in black. So I got it, and I found a plastic paint that was the perfect color. I painted it, and it looked exactly like the interior. So if you're willing to be crafty, and nothing ever chipped off of it because it was plastic paint, and if you do it right, it'll bond to it correctly. But as far as getting a beige carpet, surely you could just write them and say, hey, can you give me other color options? I mean, you got everything to make the carpet. Why not just in another color? So it's worth looking at. So I guess he was asking more in particular as far as the restoration, as far as body panels go. Yeah, definitely quarter panels. Fenders, you can swap those out. It's no problem. Also, look, I parted the car one time that I was planning on restoring myself. I pulled the engine out of it. It was a long story, but I pulled the engine because the cylinders were scored. And once I got the engine out, I could actually see the subframe, well, that frame there at the front underneath where the I'm getting a lot of text right now. But that was actually repaired, and you couldn't see it with the engine in, and I I just didn't want to work on it anymore. So if there's frame damage, or they don't have frames in these cars, but if that, what I call the frame at the front there, um, where the engine sits, is damaged, yeah, I wouldn't work on a car like that. I wouldn't work on anything that's been like, well, I wouldn't advise restoring a car that's been in a hard accident and trying to straighten it back out. You just never get it right. So these cars are known for their handling. So I would, say, hey, get something with a clean title, or if it does have a wreck title or salvage title, like my white car did, it just had the fender tore off of it, and the header panel tweaked a little bit. So in that case, it's perfectly fine to restore those. But when you get into the quarter panels as well, there's some really hard areas to access, and then you end up like either you need to replace the entire quarter panel, or you need to cut sections out of it to repair it. And we've had to do that a few times. But the straighter the quarter panel, the better. And if it's been rear-ended back there, I just wouldn't recommend it. So it'd be cool to buy a kit that was your go-to service for sitting cars, etc. So like if I made a kit and then told you to go buy it somewhere, yeah, I could probably come up with something like that. But I don't want to like go out of my way to sponsor someone, if that makes sense. It um, doesn't do either one of us any good. I mean, it would help the people, of course, and that's what's number one. But I don't want to like put my name on something that I have no control over. I can say like order these parts, and then when you get there, you get something else because they didn't have it in stock, and that wasn't really what I was trying to do. So I'd like to have something with my name on, be something I actually know that I use and is actually the part that I'm recommending. Um, if that makes any sense. And of course, it would come from a reputable dealer that I buy stuff from. But there's a lot of stuff there that has to be ironed out before you just go recommending people. It's kind of odd, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Oh, he said to order this part, and I ordered this part, but it wasn't the exact part, or so I would just rather hold off on doing that, especially the way things can be sometimes. So 86 turbo, I'm not getting power to the high pressure switch. I've changed the relay, still no luck. I pressed the snowflake button. It works perfectly when 12 volts is jumped to the compressor. Um, we'll get a wiring schematic out here in a moment, and I'll show you some really interesting stuff. So I have something similar going on with the car right now, and this isn't in the wiring schematic, but I did find that it has something to do with something somewhere on the AC system. So basically, we put a new compressor in the car, and this is something we do quite commonly, is we replace the compressor because the failure points of the AC in these systems are always either compressor, the expansion valve, and then we always change the dryer when we're in there. So anytime we do a leak down test, our number one culprit is going to be the compressor. So we changed the compressor out, and that thing held. I did it late on a Friday, came back in, it was still holding perfect 30 inches of mercury on Monday morning. It's fantastic. Go to turn everything on, thinking this car is ready to go home, because the last thing I had to do was, the guy was coming to pick it up, is just hit that snowflake button and he's ready to go, because the AC's charged, everything looks good, because it had been running. And suddenly it didn't work anymore. So I'm digging through schematics. I changed the AC relay, all this stuff. I'm checking the high pressure switch to make sure it's getting power. It turned out being someone had broken the plug. Like, if you've ever seen the casings on these, the wires go into this thing and then it just snaps around it. Well, the back side of that thing that snaps on the back of the connector had broken off. So like, you had to force the wires in there, and someone hadn't done that. So I get up underneath the dash and I push the wires on there and turn on the AC button, and everything works the way it was. Well, the way it should, and the way it was working. And then I noticed that my foot kept grazing a wire that hang, like a wiring harness that was hanging down, and flop back out again. So I'd have to get up underneath there. So I've got to replace that plug. And this plug is on the defroster flap. Now, what that has to do with the AC kicking on, I'm not entirely sure, and I haven't looked that much into the diagrams yet, but maybe you're having a similar issue. I don't see that in there. Probably is, but everything that I saw, it looks like it runs from the compressor to the high pressure switch, and then it goes around into the relay, and from the relay it goes to what was that? But yeah, I didn't see that anywhere in the circuit for the AC, but sure enough, that's the problem. So I've got to get a whole new clip to put it up in there and make sure it stays tight. But once that's done, I'll be finished with that AC, and then that car can finally go home. But right now, every time you just even graze that wiring harness, which is right near the accelerator pedal, I guess I could stick it up out of the way or something, but that's the way the factory had it, and just knocks those wires right back out. Bring the camera down a little bit. We just got a new car in this morning. I need my sunglasses. The sun's out now. So here's the S2 that we're holding for Elliot at the moment. It's a Cabriolet. Beautiful car. Just got this one in today. It's 86. It's really hard to see out here. Hopefully you guys can see. Usually have covers on these cars, but they decided to blow off. I got to put those on for the end of the day. If the turbo fails, it's usually you're going to get a lot of smoke, but you can usually still drive the car, no problem. I wouldn't if it depends on how it failed too. You might find that you end up with bits trying to come through the intake. Zane asked, do you ever work on the sunroof? I managed to jack up mine pretty badly. Yeah, we work on sunroofs all the time. Do you have an early or late one? That's a 90 S2. Okay. So someone was asking me last week, they were only getting 6 volts when they pressed the switch. But what's going on with yours? Is it operating? Is it up and down, or is it just making a noise? I don't know what keeps coming on the screen here. Oh, you're talking about the cable has come out? Okay, that's not too hard to fix. So usually once that happens, you've stripped the plastic gears in the roof. What typically happen, it can happen 2 ways. So one way is that the limit switch isn't preventing that anymore. And so when you go to push it down, the limit switch should stop the cable from just zipping all the way out of there. But you also have a slip clutch in it, and basically you got 2 nuts on it, and you loosen both of the nuts, but it's the inner one that's up against the plate that is what tensions it. And if that's too tight, and that's when you go to remove the roof, so you put the key in the first position and then you go push the button, you should just hear the motor turn. But once the arms go down, it shouldn't jerk on them anymore. It would keep tension on that cable. But if that's too tight, then it's just going to rip the gears clean, and it's going to eject that cable out in the back. So anytime that happens, you're going to need new gears. But getting it back in is pretty easy. You want to make sure that the sunroof, anytime you service sunroof, you just want to go ahead and make sure that the sunroof is in, and then you can take the arms out. So you take the cover off and all the trim, and then you get in there and just, if it's never been messed with, you want to be careful with the headliner. You don't want to rip that stuff. It is awful to replace and looks terrible if you mess it up. So just be careful with the headliner, and then you'll be able to access the gears up underneath there, and just take those and those arms out. And then you're going to trick the sunroof relay into yanking that cable back up through there. So you'll just put it back in the hole, and then you just hit the button. It's going to pull it back in there, and you're going to go until it stops. And then at that point, you're going to have the key with the ACC position on, not the one position, but the on position, I guess. And then you'll lower it until the limit switch catches. And then at that point, you're going to install your arms and new gears. So that's how you do that. But you'll need to adjust that slip clutch, because even if you have your limit switches set, it shouldn't have enough power to rip those gears clean. So you want to make sure you adjust that. And then that's like a whole thing. I was making a video, like a whole long video on how to adjust all this stuff, but it was getting a little too hard to edit. Hey, Sam, hope you're having a great day. But yeah, I definitely say get it fixed. It's not too hard to fix the sunroofs. Once you get an idea of like how they work, it's pretty simple. No problem. So I also thought on one of these live streams one time we would have like a little fun trying to, I'll take something off a card and I'll keep it from running. And then you guys can be in the chat trying to figure out like what it is that I removed and why. And uh, so I said, where did you grow up near Greenville? So do you know where Tryon, North Carolina is? It's just across the border in North Carolina from that direction. I used to work in Greenville. Okay. I've been through Malden. I couldn't tell you where it is on the map. I know it's somewhere in the greater Greenville and Spartanburg area. Have you replaced the hood foam before? Absolutely. Hundreds of times. It's been a while since I did it. So it's kind of like the other day we were replacing the suspension on a car, and it's done it a lot, but it's been 5 years since the last time. But, so you got to remember how to do stuff again. But yeah, um, it's not fun scraping all that stuff off. I'll tell you that. A lot of goo gone and scrapers. And sometimes we'll even like add some Gorilla Glue spray on the back of them just to give them that extra stuff. We use Glue here, or the 3M. 3M makes a good one too. I think it's numbered. I don't remember which number it is. At the moment, I don't know how far we are out, but send me an email at Edreas, EDREDAS .info@gmail.com, and we can figure something out. Someone just sent me an email last night or yesterday, and I've got to get back to them. So if they're watching, I got your email, and I'm gonna I'm gonna try and get back to you today. But right now, yeah, we're pretty far out. At least a month before I could bring anybody else in here. So Stuart writes, I am nearly finished with restoring the California 944 I picked up on the UK. So I'm stuck on the Aircon. It has R12 gas, but it's illegal here in the UK. Can I regas with 134? Yes, we do the conversions here as well. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to have someone, if it's obviously you said it's got it in there. So you want to take it to someone who can suck it out of there. Then you want to change the oil. You'll need to go to the, I'm looking right at it, but instead of mineral oil, want to go with the, why can't I think of the name of it? Because it's live and it's going to make me look like a fool. So just go over here. This is the oil that we put in there. But basically, you just change the oil. I have my cans right here, but I can't find my oil. But PAG. I didn't find it, but I remembered it. So it's PAG oil. You're just going to turn your compressor upside down and get all that mineral oil out. And then you put PAG in there, and that's basically it. It's pretty easy conversion. There are things that people do to make it even better, but uh, if you just want to run R134A and have decent AC, you don't have to get all crazy. You just change the oil out, and go from there. So hopefully that helps. But you know, down here in the South or in the Southern U.S., you know, I get in cars that have R134 all the time. My mother has a 944, and we did that conversion probably 5-6 years ago now. And you get in there, and that will freeze you out. But in my daily driven 924S, I get in there, same thing. It's not quite as cold, but I don't know. But oh, excuse me. Um, a lot of people will want to go to, especially if you're in California. They do make new condensers that will effectively make the R134 work better than the R12 system that we have. So I'll come back to your comment, Dennis, and then I'm going to say, Zane, how do I confirm my car as the R134 conversion? No way to know that you actually had an R134 conversion, because you'll see the adapters put on there, but that doesn't mean that someone just didn't chuck R134 in there. But that's a good way of telling. If you have the big red and blue caps somewhere on your car, more than likely someone's already put the R134 in there. And then Dennis asks, where did the name Andreas come from? So it's something I completely made up when I was like 17. And I joined forums, and I didn't want to have, you know, I'm going to be Brent B 7529, you know, so just came up with an interesting name. I thought it sounded like something from Greek mythology, and nobody else had it. Didn't have to be 50 letters behind it. So it just kind of, I just made a screen name with it. And so once I started going on forums and stuff and just talking about stuff, people kind of knew who I was. So when I did the YouTube channel, I just kind of kept it and then just went from there. I just didn't see the point in changing my name to something, changing the shop name and all that stuff to different things, when everybody could just find me. They can go on the forum, they can see my posts, they can go on YouTube and find me there. And if I had 3 different names, then it was just easier. And hey, there's no other one out there. So it was kind of just kind of worked. So it's kind of goofy, but yeah. You know, you are when you're 17, you know, and you're allowed to be. So that's pretty much the name behind that. So someone, thanks, mate. You helped me restore 2, both back in the UK. Couldn't have done it. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy them. Are you guys in the Facebook group? So I get a lot of people coming over and always asking questions. But yeah, come over there and show pictures of your rides, man. Tell us what you've done to them. I'd always be glad to see them. I think that was a car backfiring. Sounded like someone was beating on the side of the building for a second. I think it was just a car backfire. Someone writes, I followed you for a while because of your dedication to Porsche repair. Well, thank you very much. We're just here to have fun, man, and build cars. But yeah, don't forget to go over there to the group. Yeah, PAG or PAG oil. I usually have like 5 bottles on the shelf, so I was going to go over there and see. I think we used 46, but I couldn't find any. Dennis writes, have you ever dealt with a turbo S2 front bumper that is sagging on one side, meaning the gap between the bumper and the coil? Yeah, all the time. It's fairly common. And if you look right there, it looks good on camera, but yeah, on camera here, it looks good. but I can stick my whole finger in between there. So it's very common if I get up underneath there and look. Um, it's been massaged before, perhaps from an accident or something, but I don't personally see a good way of doing that. It's got new paint on it. So it was painted long before it came to us. And the owner wanted us to fix it. And I'm like, I don't know that I could do it without cracking the paint. So as far as this goes, he may have to live with it until, he decides to repaint it, because whatever needs to happen is going to require some metal to be bent. So hopefully you don't have anything like that going on with your car, but I've seen it a few times, and with this one here, something's not right. Let me bring you a little closer here. The camera likes to point at me. I'm going to point it at the car here, but so like I said, from back there it looks fine, but then you can see this too. It does not hit. Now I can't tell you why. This does not just strip all the paint off of it when the headlight goes up, but whoever did this made sure that there was no panel gap there. It's all on this side. So something shifted somewhere, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I know that there's spacers that go in here on this side here that should bring this back over. I don't know if they stacked them all over here, but this is a lot to get into with a car with fairly new paint. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be responsible for it, but I'd really like it if it didn't look like that. But no, I think it's one of those things that he just may have to live with on that for now. So Rusty Ratchet Garage says, how long is your wait list? Right now, I would say at least a month. So I've watched some of your videos. I'm fixing the headlights. Do you have any favorite LED kits? My LED lights. Oh, my lights are so dim. In my white 944, I installed the ones from Only 944, and they're pretty good. They're not as bright as the Sylvania halogens that I installed with the H4 upgrade kit. I did those on my 924S, but I do like the light color better, but they're not quite as good as halogens. It's mainly probably due to the fact that you just never, I think they're in halogen housings, and they're LED lights. They just don't get it on the road as well. But I did like those, and they were a huge upgrade over to stock. So if you're just looking for something, they were super cheap too. So again, I'm not like, let me plug my laptop back in, but I'm not sponsored by them. I have no affiliation with them, but I did like the kit, and it was simple, and it was super cheap. So give those a shot. But if you really want to get the best out of your headlights, there's probably better things out there, because like I said, they weren't anywhere near as good as my H4 lights. But the H4 lights required like a heavy duty wiring upgrade and stuff. But yeah, they were far superior. So that's why I don't have LEDs on my 924S. But I was just looking for something cheap and better than I couldn't even see in front of me. So Christian says, speaking of which, is there a way to rebuild the rear and front impact absorbers on the bumpers? No, I don't believe so. I do believe you can buy them new though. If nothing else, get a hold of Elliot at 944 Barn and just get some used ones somewhere. But there's no way to rebuild them. Yeah. So He said I did the LED upgrade on the 928. Big difference. Yeah, definitely overstock. It's a huge upgrade. Yeah, the only 944 LEDs. Yeah, they were like $79 or something. They may have gone up, but I did it a few years ago, and I really liked them. I was just looking for something that was an upgrade over to stock lights, and I really liked them. But as far as like being a daily driven car, I didn't think they were. I'm not gonna say anything bad, but I don't enjoy them. But and I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying that like on the daily driven car, I wanted a lot more light, and thanks for taking the time to answer questions and support the community. Thank you so much, man. Hey, I'm here for you guys. We're just hanging out, having fun, fixing cars. uh, so someone said, I cannot figure out why my car won't go over 3,000 RPMs. Breaks up like a rev limiter. 84,944 following parts are working on fuel pump DME relay. We just had one here doing that not long ago. And what was that? I do remember what that was. It was the computer. The computer got wet. You couldn't go above like 2,500, 3,000 RPM in that thing, and it would just go. And put in a new computer, and it worked. If before you do all that though, with this computer, you could see like an orange line of rust where the computer had been sitting in water and had been rained on. It was completely dry by the time we got to it, but it didn't matter. It had already done its damage. So you might want to look at getting the computer, the DME fixed. Oh, but you said here you've got the parts with working ones. You've replaced the DME, so that was the problem on that car. Let me reread your comment. So I cannot figure out why cars isn't revving up. Following parts with working ones. So you did change the DME and the AFM. What was the problem with that car? I don't know. If you change the fuel pump, the fuel pressure regulator, the DME, the airflow meter, are they all from the same car? Did you make sure that when you changed the AFM, well, if it was doing it before, interesting. That's an interesting one because with that car it was the DME, and then it made sense because there was just something broken inside there. But if you've already replaced that, you got to match the DME with the airflow meter on the early car. So both the parts were from the same car. So I also wrote, I did the timing belt and balance shaft belt replacement from your video and timed them together, but my cam was still a tooth off. No, okay, so they were off two different cars. If they're both 83, 84s, it shouldn't be a problem, but you can't put a later computer in an early car with an early AFM and different, the injectors and all that are different. It's hard to say. I would try and make sure that everything is from an 85 and a half and well 85 1 and earlier. So but if it was doing this before you even changed out the airflow meter and before you changed out the DME, then that wouldn't be the problem. It's really odd. I mean, you can poke around all day and I could just speculate on what's going on. But I mean, that doesn't really do anybody any good, because the last thing I want to do is send someone down a rabbit hole and make them buy a bunch of parts they don't need. You may end up just want to look at and make sure that you have the right AFM matched to the right computer. And then at that point, it could, I mean, you change the fuel pump, but I don't see injectors in there, and injectors could be doing it. But I would have all that tested. I would, I wouldn't throw any more parts at it. I would just kind of see what's going on with it, because something's going to be clear and obvious. If you want to get a spark tester and see if that's the problem, or if there's like an issue with the wiring to the injectors or something. But yeah, I wouldn't throw any more parts at it. It's got to be something simple. Scott said I did the Renbei E-Code upgrade. Yeah, that's basically what I've got on my car. I made the harness for it, though. At the time, he didn't have any, so I just started making my own harnesses for the cars. He needs to get those back in stock. But yeah, I like the E-Codes a lot. Yeah, we'll figure out what's going on. I can imagine that the injectors or something, maybe something in the driver. It's kind of an odd situation going there. But if you've tried, the way I look at it, whenever I'm fixing something, two items aren't going to have the same issue. So if I swap out the airflow meter and the problem still persists, then it's obviously not the airflow meter. And I've never really had any problem with that. Sometimes I will swap three just for the heck of it, but but most of the time, like, you find it within like swapping it the first time. So with the car I looked at yesterday, it looked like the injectors had been cleaned, but they were leaking fuel everywhere. So I mean, these injectors are all old at this point, and even if they're in good shape the last time you had them checked, and I've even gotten them back many times from the people flow testing them, and they don't work. I mean, it's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. You get them in the mail, and I mean, we install them that day, so it's not like they're sitting around. I can understand if they sat on the shelf for 2 months or something. We'll get them back that same day, put them in, start it up, and one of the injectors is leaking now, or it's just not working at all. So Jack asked, do you know of any good repair shops in Northern California? I do not. I'm not really that familiar with other Porsche shops. Um, I've met some guys at 944 Fest that also sort of do what I do. Um, I know there's one guy down in San Diego, Tim, but as far as Northern California, I don't know. He's the only one that I know on the West Coast, and that's only because like I know him personally. But yeah, I mentioned it in the last live stream. So I've got a lot of I've gone through a lot of companies that clean injectors over the years, and right now I'm using RC Injector. Again, I'm not sponsored by them in any way, but that's the guys I'm using. I like the work they do. So do I just use injector cleaner? No, I don't do it here, because the stuff they do there is way beyond the scope, and I don't really have time to mess with it. So I have time to sit around on a Sunday and live stream and talk to guys, but I would never, if I had to do all the injector cleaning and I had to rebuild like all the stuff that, if I had to rebuild torque tubes and stuff, I would never have any free time. Yeah, I would never get anything done. So a lot of this stuff I just send off whenever possible. But as far as injector cleaning goes, I've seen guys just spray it in there and have them clean. But at that point, you don't know what the flow is without having a machine to flow them. And yeah, you still don't know if they're leaking. So you want to pressure test them to make sure the body doesn't have a leak. I've had to throw so many injectors in the trash because the body starts to leak. So yeah, guys, I think I'm going to wind this down. I think next week I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to get around to it, but I'm going to try to get a nap. That way I can actually put stuff on the screen here and we can talk about that. And it'll save me from editing. I think it'll be a little bit more interesting. So as we're watching the videos, we can actually go through and just talk about them as they play out. So I want to do that with the 944 Fest stream. Basically, I'll show you all the footage we got, and then that should be a lot of fun. I don't know what this software is. I don't know why YouTube just doesn't do it, but yeah, I want to be able to show you guys. Maybe we can even do that with some stuff that we're working on, so I can just make some footage and then upload it, and then you guys get to see it pretty much in real time. But another fun thing, I mentioned it earlier, would be to sort of maybe I will do something where I take something off one of the cars and then we try and start it, and then it's up to you guys to figure out exactly what I took off and why the car isn't running, and then we can go through like all the wiring diagrams together and just sort of have fun with that. And that would be a little bit more elaborate than the no start video. In that case, I was just trying to figure out why my car didn't start one day, and so I just made a video on it. But in this case, we could actually dive deeper. Is it the fuel pump? Is it the fuel pump relay? Is it the DME? And so we could trace those things and we could go through the thought process of like the things to check. So anyway, guys, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe I can try and set that up next week if I can't get the program to put stuff on the screen. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Y'all have a great week, and hopefully we'll see. I'm going to try and do another one next week. So hope you guys stop in, and we'll see you then.